Whose fault is it that I live like a child? I guess me. This is We Have Concerns. Hi, Jeff Cannata.
Hi, Anthony Carboni.
Hello, concerned citizens. Jeff, do you think you're, and this is not a trick question. I'm not trying to trap you. Do you think you're a pretty smart guy?
I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm not winning any Nobel awards.
Sure. I rewatched
They call him
Spider-Man 2 recently, and all Harry Osborn says in Spider-Man 2 is he's going to win the Nobel Prize and he's going to be rich. And I don't think Harry Osborn understands how the Nobel Prize works. But I would put myself, the problem is with me is between my ADHD and early IQ testing. I was a gifted kid, gifted kid, quote
I was in
unquote.
GATE. Yeah.
Yeah. Which my mother always said. My mother's a teacher, and she always said all people are gifted. Everybody just opens their present at different times.
That's lovely. I like that.
And so she's like, very early on, I was told in a lot of ways that I'm very smart and very exceptional. And you know what I mean?
Much a terrible thing to tell a kid.
It's a terrible thing to tell a child. Don't tell them they're dumb, but please don't tell them they're the chosen one. You know what I mean? Don't tell your kid that they're the last starfighter.
Right. With our kids, we try to focus on, hey, wow, you really worked hard on that. Mm-hmm. You really worked hard on that. Wow, you really applied yourself. You used your brain. Good job.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to focus on. Not you're so smart.
You're better at this than you were. Yes. Do you remember how you were at this when you started? You're so much better now. Like that sort of stuff, right?
It's funny. It's a very generational thing, though, because all the grandparents are like, you are so smart. And I'm like, just stop with the smart.
I know. Well, it comes from, when you think about our parents, like my mother was raised by Eastern European Holocaust survivors. And so, it was like, you didn't die. Could have done better.
Yeah.
As long as you're happy, I guess. Like that sort of thing,
Right.
Or they were just straight up disappointed with them. But then, of course, when they saw how that turned out and I was the grandchild, I was the golden boy, right?
Right.
But anyway, the long and short of all this is I think a lot of us are trained to think that we are smarter than we actually are. For some people that turns into imposter syndrome. For some people that becomes genuinely what they think.
some people that becomes Dunning-Kruger.
It is, and that's exactly what I wanted to talk about today. Is the Dunning-Kruger effect. This was sent in by, bless his heart, Synergy.
Doing such work.
Synergy Mansfield, Synergy Mansfield on the Discord, where in our science channel, where people are submitting amazing science stories every day. I got to tell you, I comb the science subreddit as one of the sources that I look at, before we do an episode. And I got to tell you, 9 times out of 10, we've got better stuff than the science subreddit.
Look at us. Get in that Discord. Get in there. Better stuff.
Look, here's the thing. The science subreddit right now is full of a lot of stuff that we are worried about in the world, which is like a lot of why do people think the way they do politically? Why do they do this? I don't need 9 out of my 10 science articles to be that.
Right.
That's why
Let's get some more interesting variety in there.
Yeah, that's why I like our Discord. If you want to join our Discord, you can support the show for just $1 a month at patreon.com/wehaveconcerns. Synergy Mansfield is, of course, an all-star. And he sent in this great article from Ars Technica, an article by John Timmer at Ars Technica, talking about some new studies that say Google is causing a sort of Dunning-Kruger in our lives.
because information is always accessible and at our fingertips, so we just assume we know what we're doing.
Once we've seen it, we think we know it and remember it and understand it.
You know what? That tracks. And, I feel like it's just the headlines, right? It's just, I saw the headline and therefore I know the content of the article.
Yeah, it's the thing of real life has started to mirror early internet life where early internet arguments, whether they were on message boards or Facebook or Twitter, somebody would make a point and then you would look up that point as quick as you could to find the counter argument for that point and then respond with that. And so really it was just two search engines arguing with each other back and forth. There was nothing real happening.
You're just an intermediary between search engine results.
Yeah. It was just a bunch of Ask Jeeves and dog piles arguing with each other back then. And we talk about this a lot. We talk about the outsourcing of our brain to electronic devices, right?
Yeah.
We think about this.
Which I think ultimately is a positive thing.
Me too.
In order to be able to offload a lot of the heavy lifting, I like that I have a calculator at the ready anytime I need it. I like that I have all the world's knowledge in my pocket. It is a positive thing.
Yes.
But it sounds like this is a negative repercussion of that.
Certainly there are growing pains and we've got to learn and grow with everything. But UT Austin had a researcher at UT Austin, Adrian Ward, is curious about what search engines are doing to us and doing to our not just our memory, which is something that we focus on all the time, but what they're doing to our character and our personality. So his idea was search engines return information so quickly and seamlessly that to our brain, it feels like we ourselves remembered it.
Huh. Interesting. What a lie we tell to ourselves. We're so brilliant that just using my phone is a function of how smart I am.
But what's crazy is like, okay, it's something where the pessimist in me says, yeah, of course, that makes perfect sense. Like, ugh, us. But like at the same time, how I don't turn on the television and put on a movie and go, I made this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't.
It's funny.
But when I think about that analogy, because I went down a rabbit hole with this analogy, Jeff. Okay, I was like, if I put on a movie, I don't think I made the movie. No, but I scream at the fucking contestants on Great British Bake Off like I know how to bake better than they do because I've watched an episode of Great British Bake Off.
Oh yeah, or let's not even talk about baking, which seems like it seems like a function, a feat that you could actually perform, but you could watch professional sports and people are yelling at the screen, catch the ball. It's like, you know how difficult it is for that person to catch the ball.
How did you not see that coming?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I'm not watching it from an aerial camera on television.
Yeah. Watching the Olympics and yelling at the screen is like, these people, every waking moment of their lives since birth has been aimed at this exact moment while you have fucked off and done whatever the hell you want.
Even people, you know, watching game shows and it's like, this guy's fucking up. He's doing so badly. I knew every answer.
Right.
I'll tell you what, Jeff, I've only been on a game show once, but I did win. So that did not help. Now I do believe I'm better than everyone on TV.
I've been on one game show and we were poised to win. And it was a game show where I was partnered with someone and she misspelled a word. I'll never forgive her for that. Anyway,
was it a friend or was it somebody you were partnered with?
It was a friend. She invited me to come on the game show with her because she needed a partner.
Was a friend.
We were was a friend.
Like after that, it was just kind of like, how could you?
Yeah.
You're very competitive. Sometimes I forget that you're very competitive.
Oh, I'm very competitive. I'm very competitive. It's not a good thing about me.
But so the idea here is, we probably categorize recall based on how easy it is, right? So if we have to go to a card catalog and then go to a book and then look it up in a book and then write it down, we think about that is valuable, arduous information that we didn't have.
Interesting.
But for easy to recall things, you know, like we were just screaming lyrics at each other from a song that I haven't heard in 20 years.
Yeah.
Before the show started.
Because we're brilliant.
Because we're brilliant and we remember everything. And there is, listen, who was smarter, Dunning or Kruger? Because that's the one that I am.
We remember, Anthony, I'll tell you this. We remember August and everything.
Everything after. So the idea here is performing searches to get information might feel more like getting something out of your memory. I knew what to search. I needed this specific thing.
Because it's frictionless.
Yeah.
If the more friction between you and the answer equates in the human brain, in the fucking narcissistic human brain,
This work.
as being like, oh, well, that must have been a difficult thing
It was
to
so
know.
hard. Nobody knows
because it was
that.
hard for me to find it out.
How would
But
anybody
because
know
it was
that?
easy, it was easy for me to find out. Therefore, it was easy for me to know. Therefore, I must have already known it.
Right. I
That
just
is-
forgot. I momentarily forgot.
We are babies.
We're just dumb
we're
babies.
just dumb babies.
So, in order to test this hypothesis, they created a variety of information recalling questions, and then you have people answer them either by memory or by Google, right? But there are a couple of variations on the challenge, right? So the first one is people answer 10 questions. Half of them answer using their memory, half of them do an internet search, and then they take a cognitive self-esteem test.
Okay.
All right. Now, the people who used Google, obviously, on average, got more questions right.
Sure.
But they also felt smarter
Right.
than the other people, which you would think the more you have to go to Google, the more
Yeah,
you'd be
the
like,
less
I
smart you'd
didn't
feel.
know that.
Yeah.
I had to look it up. But no, they thought they were smarter than the people who relied on memory.
Right.
Okay.
No, I think there's this anecdotally, I relate to the feeling of Googling something and going, I knew that.
yeah.
I knew that. I just didn't remember it in this exact moment, but I knew that.
I'm specifically thinking of like times I have been at like a like pub trivia, and the guy says or the person running the trivia night says the answer, and it's not the one I put down, but I go, oh, of course I knew it was that.
I knew that.
Part of me was saying that, and it's like, yeah,
Right.
but not the part that answered, dummy. You didn't
Yeah,
know
exactly.
it. You just, it's
Exactly.
okay. Hey, brain, it's okay. You didn't know.
Yeah.
That's all right, brain. But no, it's not all right. Brain
No.
says, no, I'm smart boy.
Yeah. I know stuff. And just because I didn't know this thing, I probably did know that
But,
thing,
yeah.
actually.
Actually, the fact that I didn't know it means that I did know it. So,
Yeah. When you
what?
told me what it
Brain?
was, I recognized that I retroactively had known that.
Brain, we're on so many medications already. I cannot take another to get rid of whatever this is, brain. So then
Man.
they want to branch these experiments out, right? So they did it again. And instead of just grading them, both groups were given the correct answers to the test afterwards. It was like, it wasn't just you got an 80, or it wasn't just like, hey, we're not giving you a score at all. Just tell us how you think you did and how you feel about yourself cognitively. We're giving you the actual answers.
Mhm.
And then they were asked about their confidence in a future test, how they would do again if they had to take a similar test again. Google users were like, dude, I could do this test again easy. I could do 90 of these tests. Now,
I'm awesome at these
I'm
tests.
awesome. Dude, I am a test taking machine. No, you have a test taking machine in your pocket, asshole. So then they were given the follow up test because, and they switched the people around.
Right. Yeah. Google people don't get Google anymore.
The Google people don't get Google anymore. They performed just as poorly as anyone else. Of course they did.
Right. Of course they did.
And then in the third one, people who relied on memory were told that they got 8 out of the 10 answers right, regardless of whether they did or not.
Okay.
You got 8 out of 10. Congratulations. You remembered 8 out of 10. The ones who believed this score came away with an inflated sense of confidence, obviously, but it was just about equal. It wasn't more confident. It was just about equal to the confidence levels of people who used Google on the test.
That's funny, man.
They're like, I'm just as smart as somebody who didn't know anything and looked it up. What? What? Yeah. And then they found out that this inflated sense of confidence evaporated if the Google users were asked to write down any answers they could think of before using Google. So basically, you have to go through the test, answer via memory, and then you're allowed to use Google to fill in any blanks.
Oh no, this is proving to yourself you're an idiot.
Yeah.
This is what this is. This is like, I when I Googled it, I knew it before. I retroactively knew this before I Googled it. But it's like, oh, really? Oh, cool. We'll write it down first next time. Oh, I'm an idiot.
No, I did not. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like making you, it's a reckoning. It's like making you reckon with this.
Dude, this is an example, and we have a number of these over the course of the history of this show, but this is an example of one of those stories where I come away from it going, what? We don't deserve this planet. We're a bunch of dumb idiots. Our brains are so stupid, and so it's not even stupid. It's like it's self-defeating. It's self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, we got smart in a specific way.
Yes.
Thousands of years ago. And
we just lie to ourselves. We just fool ourselves all the time into feeling and thinking ways that are just based on zero fact.
Look, and it's great. It's great in a life where you're gonna eat a berry and you're gonna die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in that life,
procreate and perish.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, you're having a great day, and then something just tears your head off because who knows what's going to kill you out there. We're built for that kind of intelligence where it's like we have to be lying to ourselves all the time. If ancient man had any idea, if ancient man was able to truly conceptualize, not just be like, okay, if we go into the forest, there are more animals in the forest, so we need to be more ready for more animals. Not that. If we were able to be like if early man was smart enough to be a nihilist early on.
Yeah. To realize how bleak their existence really is.
We never would have left the cave. You have to have something in your body that says, no, lion can't eat me. I'm good. I'm a good guy.
No. Lion ate Herb and Sally and Genevieve
look at what,
of the other
sweetheart, look at Herb. Look at Herb and then look at me. Of course the lion ate Herb.
Yeah, exactly. Lion totally has decimated every friend
Herb was
that I grew up with.
Jackass, honey.
But,
look, Herb have spear, but my spear longer. Look how much longer, honey.
Spear. I looked up how to use spear on Cave Google, and now I understand how to use spear
I looked at
the
cave paintings about spear. Long spear better. I'm fine. I'm going out there. I'm going to kill the lion. We're such idiots. So you might remember that one part of this was the speed at which the search engine is able to give us this information. It tricks us into believing that we are recalling it. So they also wanted to test the immediacy of Google, right? And see if that had something to do with it. So they did one of the experiments where they delayed the search results by 25 seconds. And something about
25 seconds long. I'm sure that felt interminably long.
25 seconds to get one piece of information?
Yeah.
I feel like Herb. I feel like I'm looking at the cave paintings.
Exactly.
25 seconds? If it takes 25 seconds to find, I don't need to know it.
Yeah, it's basically makes Google useless.
Yeah. Okay, I'll look that up. What?
25 seconds of my life is not worth any piece of information.
Yeah, no. What do I need to know that is worth 25 seconds? Oh my God. That's such an interminably long amount of time. Yeah. I couldn't deal with it.
What would I even do with myself for that long?
Well, how would I sit still for 25 seconds? And they found that it did reduce the confidence, but it didn't eliminate it entirely. So yes, the speed of the results is somehow tied to the inflated level of intellect.
It feels like that is ratcheting up the perception of work, right? If it took Google 25 seconds to give you a result, maybe it was a harder thing to find.
Right, or it's more unsure about it. Feels like Google isn't sure about this. Took Google 25 seconds. That seems long. And then they compared Google users to people who were given a Wikipedia page that contains an answer somewhere in it.
You got to find it.
Yeah. Then they found that the Wikipedia users were more likely to correctly recall where they got their information, while the Google users just didn't remember where they got the information. They thought that they remembered it themselves.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I knew it.
I
had
it. Whereas like the Wikipedia people, because they
it.
had to read the page, they're like, oh yeah, that was from this Wikipedia entry. I remember where it was because I was reading about this. And the people who like were a mix of just memory and Google, they couldn't remember which answers they Googled and which ones they remembered.
Yeah. It does feel like the fulcrum around which all of this rotates is how much work it took to get the answer. It does feel like that is a major contributing factor to how much you think it wasn't you.
Right. Well, and the other dangers of this, which they don't get into, but the first thing I thought of is if you search this thing, if you Google something, and like you said, you're headline skimming or your paragraph skimming, and you find it and it's incorrect, but you remember the incorrect one and you remember that you know the incorrect one. Not that you looked it up on Google. Right. You know that this information is something that you know, that you remember. It's part of your recollection, but it's wrong. And I think we see a lot of that, not to go back to the science subreddit here, but we see a lot of that in political and social arguments these days. I remember this thing. This is true because I remember it.
Yeah. And I know it. And it's not that I read it somewhere and that headline that I read is potentially erroneous.
Mm-mm.
It's that I've always known this, and this is an original thought of mine, and I'm expressing it to you as my own.
Original character, do not steal.
Yeah.
It's wild, man. It's wild.
It's wild.
Every time.
It's depressing.
every time we learn about stuff like this, because there is so much conscious stuff. Like I don't want to minimize. Like, look, the human brain is a ding dang miracle, and
of course,
the fact that we can do so much and that there's so much of our natural behavior and our natural inclinations that we can override, that we can relearn, that we can add to. All of that is wonderful, but we're learning so much about this subconscious wiring. And how it works and how the things that we've built to move ourselves forward really don't take that subconscious wiring into consideration 9 times out of 10.
As ding dang miracles go, it's got room for improvement.
Yeah, look, you start with a miracle and then maybe tweak. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's so funny, as a kid growing up in the 80s and 90s and sort of being aware of the dawn of the information age, right? Coming out of the industrial age and into the information age. And I, as a kid who was super into science fiction and was a nerd and, thought I was smart, I thought this is the greatest thing ever. The information age is the greatest thing ever. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And here we are smack dab in the middle of the information age where wars are fought with information. And I mean, we're literally all those sci-fi concepts that I read about are true. And yet the thing that I just didn't foresee and is so depressing is how ill-equipped the human brain is to be in the information age.
Yeah. I really, we've talked a lot about this, but I always leaned towards, like, I used to love dystopian sci-fi, right? And the thing about dystopian sci-fi was it was always, for most authors would tell you in dystopian sci-fi that there is always some shadowy organization of evil that is just smart and taking advantage of this stuff. But the best dystopian sci-fi writers, your Philip K. Dick, and even when Vonnegut leaned into sci-fi and stuff like that, they really understood that no, it's just that we're dumb. It's just that we're kind of dumb and lazy. And if we don't constantly keep in check the fact that we are dumb and lazy, we're going to be sort of our own undoing. Absolutely. Yeah. Our capacity is falls short of our ability to do things. Like we outpace ourselves. Yeah. And we're able to throw all this stuff at ourselves, and we're not able to handle all the things that we are
injecting into our brains. It's our brain just doesn't know how to handle it.
Yeah, we can come up with like the greatest. We're coming up with the greatest stuff, and we have no ability to like pump the brakes or put the limiters on it or
regulate it in any way.
We can think a certain number of steps ahead, but we can't think a certain number of steps ahead of that, right? So we were like, I mean, and that's why they think like when Zuckerberg came out, when the Lizard Boy came out and did his Meta presentation, and he was like, we believe in the ability of technology to connect us all and bring us together. I was like, you can't just come out and say that anymore without citing your sources and showing your work, because now we know. Even if we want to do that. You want to do that, but we also know that 2 weeks ago you lied to Congress because you were like, oops, our algorithm did a bad. Don't tell anybody how bad our algorithm did.
Right.
And so we know this, on a global Dunning-Kruger scale, I think we are just starting to understand how much we were too dumb for the smart things that we just put into motion and into focus.
But what's so depressing to me is that it's not even like, oh, the technology is warping us. It's more like what this study is showing is the technology isn't really doing anything. It's our brains lying to ourselves. Mm-hmm. Our brains literally don't know how to handle it. And so they just give us the wrong result. They're just like, oh, yeah, no, I thought of this. It's the stupidest thing the brain can do.
Why would you do that? You definitely did not, brain. Brain, look at the search history. You definitely did not. Come on, brain, go. Search history. You should delete that. Because people can see that.
People can see that. And you knew it all along. Come on. You knew it.
And I also knew it all along. Come on. Come on. So yeah, interesting things. Thank you to Z Mansfield. Once again, he submitted that on our Discord. If you want to become part of the Discord, it's not just a place to share science stories. It's also a place where people are talking about games. A few of us were sharing our Halloween costumes. We're just talking about stuff, hanging out.
Good folks hanging out. Being cool.
Yeah. And that you get access to that for just $1 a month or more over at patreon.com/we have concerns. If you heard the episode a couple weeks back where we played that extra bonus discussion of me and Jeff ranking candy and talking about Halloween and stuff like that, patrons that the $3 a month or more level get those every single week as a totally separate show.
So cheap.
It's so cheap. And more comes as you give more. Thank you to everybody who's supported the show. If you are not yet supporting the show financially, please consider doing it. Check out patreon.com/we have concerns and see if it looks interesting to you.
Hey, Anthony, do you still have your wisdom teeth?
No,
yeah,
I got them out at, I think I was a little older than most of my friends. I got them out at like 19, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How was that process? For me, it was horrible. I got a dry socket. It was fucking terrible. It was one of the worst, most excruciating. I couldn't close my mouth. I was in intense pain for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It was a horrible experience.
I had some friends that had that too. I was one of the lucky ones. I was pretty much fine by the end of the same day. I got it done in the morning. I was a little achy by the end of the same day. And by the next day, I was totally good.
It's interesting. More and more, I think the dental associations are saying that kids don't have to get their wisdom teeth out. They can leave them in.
Well, that's one of the reasons I got mine out so late is I got braces. And my orthodontist was like, if 9 times out of 10, if we do this right, you can have your wisdom teeth. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
Because everything was pushed and pulled forward and stuff. But then I did not wear my headgear or my retainer because they hurt, and it was one more thing to remember. So I wound up having to get them taken out.
Do it to yourself, you do.
How can anybody sleep in that fucking headgear, man?
I was very fortunate. I never had to deal with braces or headgear. Vision was always my problem. I had glasses.
It wasn't, the headgear wasn't as bad as it was on like TV or in movies. In TV and movies, you always see this kid who's in this like, they just have this full S&M harness around their head,
Yeah.
And it's got like gaskets.
Bridle.
Yeah. It's got like gaskets and springs and gears and shit. I mean, mine was like, It was elastic. It just it looked like those bands that you take to like the hotel when you tell yourself you're going to work out at the hotel, but you don't.
Yeah. That's a home gym in a single rubber band.
Yeah, you remember that? Yeah, you remember those when
Yeah.
everybody had those? It was kind of like one of those, but it was just listen, take a shot every time you hear Anthony say that he has ADHD, but one of the things that you have is like when you have ADHD is like sensitivity to textures and like pain and stuff like that. Like it's over because your brain can't focus on anything. So if the only thing that's going on is like a constant uncomfortability, that's all your brain can focus on. And so I'm lying in this headgear and I'm just like like a sad little asthmatic Darth Vader. And I'm just like, this sucks. So I never wore it. And long story short, I had to get my wisdom teeth out.
Well, this is a story submitted again on that wonderful Discord. This comes to us from Greg the Cookie Crumbless.
He got that nickname and now he's going hard.
Very recent nickname earner.
Just a couple weeks
Greg,
back.
Congratulations again. And this is a story about wisdom teeth. I've never really thought too much about wisdom teeth, but they are weird.
Yeah.
It's super weird that we get teeth at 18. What?
Yeah.
Why do we need new teeth at 18? Well, this is a study that was conducted at, I believe, Arizona State and the University of Arizona. They collaborated on a very robust study to try to answer the question, why do we get wisdom teeth so late?
You know what's wild? It's like I've thought about that. And I want to say that I've looked into it before, but I cannot recall. Because 18, 16 to 18 seems like a particularly weird time to grow new teeth, especially since early on in the human species, baby, you wasn't living much longer than that. What do you have teeth for at 18? Those are your death teeth? What are you
especially
chewing?
Because our closest living relatives, the chimpanzees, also get molars. They get adult molars. We get new teeth at 6, 12, and 18. Chimpanzee gets molars at 3, 6, and 12. So it's super weird that we are offset so late like that.
Wait, 6, 12, and 18?
Yeah.
No.
This says that those are the ages that most people get their 3 adult molars.
Oh, okay. One molar each time.
The teeth in the back of the mouth. Yeah.
Okay.
6, 12, and 18.
I feel like my I at least remember my bottom ones coming in around the same time, but maybe that's just misremembering.
I remember getting all of them around the same time too, but I don't know. It's like when it breaks through the gums. So you have them, they start generating earlier, and it's when they break through the gums is when you have to have the surgery.
Oh, yeah.
I
remember doing this with my tongue a lot when they were coming in. And they were like, don't do that. It makes it worse. And I'm like, help it.
Dude, I had this horrible, when I had the dry socket, they had this like long, gummy, almost like a piece of tape. It was disgusting. And I had to stuff it in the hole and squirt this horrible saline. Dude,
and you can just feel it back there, and all you want to do is like rub your tongue on it and get it out of there.
Yes. And that's the one thing you can't do, and it tastes all weird and
It's like when you cut your tongue or the inside of your cheek and you can't stop rubbing it against each other because you're like, there's a cut in there, and it's like, yeah, there is a cut in there. Stop fucking with it. And you're like, can't do it.
Exactly.
Can't do it. It's in there.
So the prevailing wisdom before this study is that evolutionarily, our diet fucking sucked, right? We didn't have variety in our diet.
Yeah.
It was pretty terrible. And, our ancestors would lose their teeth pretty quick in life. Your diet is abrasive. Your teeth get a lot of wear and tear.
Mm-hmm.
And so evolutionarily, they thought, well, maybe you just grow new ones to replace, the back areas where you chew a lot of food. You have to masticate to get stuff down.
Okay.
So maybe it's just like, a very late pit stop where we're getting new tires on the car. You're just getting some substitute.
Yeah, that
chewing.
makes sense, I guess. Yeah, I like that. I can see why we thought that.
So this study, that's kind of the prevailing wisdom, and it's not entirely wrong, but this study went much deeper as far as figuring out why the pace is different from us and other primates, and also, what the factors are that contribute to that slower pace. One of them is we have longer lifespans than chimpanzees. So our longer lifespan means that we need to have teeth longer. Everything is sort of protracted and lengthened out, right? So, we just are slower to everything. We are slower to become adults. We are slower to get to puberty. Humans are really fucking slow at growing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
And so that, dental growth is no different, right?
Yeah.
We, for whatever reason,
the same chemical signals that cause our bodies to change in puberty and become adult bodies probably signal these teeth. And it's just a function of our age. Got it. I love that.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, chimpanzees are walking earlier than humans are walking.
Okay, but it's not a competition. It's not a
faster.
competition, chimpanzees.
It kind of is.
I don't think
it kind of is. I mean, if you've ever raced a chimpanzee like I have, you'll know they take it we established that I'm a very competitive person.
All right.
I'll race a chimpanzee.
I will arm wrestle a chimpanzee, and movies have taught me that is a bad idea.
Yeah, but you know what?
They are freakishly strong.
If you just make your fingers into finger guns and go bang, they'll fall on their backs immediately.
That's true. They'll give you time to get away. I don't know why. I don't know why. Maybe you owe the chimpanzee money or something. I don't know why you're running from a chimpanzee in this story.
No, it's because you paid all that money for that convertible limousine that you have.
Right. And we were going cross country with the chimp. I get it.
Yeah. It's before you meet Samantha and Angela and Mona and Jonathan, Angela, Samantha,
Mona.
Anyway, so these researchers created 3D biomechanical models of skulls for tons of species, all the primates they could find. They created the attachment positions of each major chewing muscle. They did it during different growth periods. I mean, this was a massive undertaking as far as like modeling jaws, chewing muscles, chewing structures, the facial structures, the skulls, and figuring out the spatial relationships over time that are created between the muscles and the jaw structure. And what they found out is it has a lot to do with the fact that we have short faces. Humans have short faces.
Compared to what? Like a horse that walks into a bar? Like
Yeah. No, but you know, when I first read this, I had the same thought you did, which is short meaning top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what they mean. They mean front to back. A short face front to back. So basically, if you imagine primates, you go into the zoo, you're looking at chimpanzees and apes and monkeys of all kinds. Their jaws are jutted forward. In fact, they're out from underneath the brain case.
Mm-hmm.
But we have faces. Humans have faces that are short, and our jaws are tucked underneath our brain case.
But wait a minute. Doesn't that mean that like if we're using this if we're using all the storage space here,
yeah,
and ours are set farther back, doesn't that mean that our jaws could be longer because they're starting earlier? Why do we have shorter jaws from front to back? I would think, I guess because every animal's head doesn't look like a horse head, I guess. Now that I think about it. Like they're not all super long. So they have, so they should have shorter jaws than us. Why do we have shorter jaws? This is driving me crazy.
Well, this doesn't go into why we have shorter jaws, just the fact that we do really.
So they start farther and go out longer? That's not fair. That's not fair, animals.
I know. They got the best of both jaws. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Hannah Montana.
Yeah. So basically, it takes a really long time for our jaw to develop. In fact, if our molars were to come in earlier in life, it literally would destroy your jaw. Like the way they come in would break your jaw because it takes that long for the human species jaw to develop, to harden enough, to form enough to withstand the stress of molars growing in.
Huh.
So it's a combination of how fast the jaw grows and how long or protruding the jaw ultimately becomes that determines when molars come in primates. It literally was like a direct graph of, the more jutted forward your jaw is, the earlier you get molars.
Huh. So what if
Basically, their theory is like it's just creating what they call a mechanically safe space for these extra teeth to come in.
Snowflakes. These fucking snowflake molars
it
need
needs
a safe
space. It needs to be,
Hey,
you just have to.
We're just kidding. Everybody deserves a safe space.
Yeah, that's true. Even your teeth.
Even your teeth.
And so literally it's like everything has to sort of be moved out of the way.
Okay.
And be grown hard enough to withstand the stress of it. And then your teeth can come in.
Our jaws are soft?
Yeah, until you're like 18 years old, dude. You have a soft jaw. You're like a glass jaw over here.
Really?
Yeah.
How soft? Like
it's soft enough that new teeth will fuck it up.
I guess so. That's
Yeah.
I don't remember my jaw being particularly soft or softer. I didn't get into many fights.
No, me neither.
So I don't know.
I always try to. My jaw was more about cracking jokes to sort of get out of fights. That's what my jaw was used for.
Huh.
Yeah. So now the next step of this is to apply this modeling to human fossil skulls.
Okay.
To see how far back it was that this changed, right? What part of our evolutionary progression did we stop getting molars at 12 and start getting them at 18?
And then what do we learn from that? Just more about our evolutionary past, like just for the
more about our evolutionary path, and it actually can have ramifications for what we do with wisdom teeth, like how we handle having them or not having them, whether we should remove them or not.
I save mine in a jar and
I
use them to tell the future. I divine things.
Well, there's that. There's always that. And, some people have impacted teeth, right?
Oh, right.
And so this can also help understanding why that happens and maybe prevent it.
Because your soft baby jaw can't handle the teeth coming in, baby.
Yeah.
That's what orthodontists will talk like in the future. Yeah. Once they know. They'll use this information to become meaner.
Yeah.
My orthodontist had a Packland machine.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa, hardcore orthodontistry.
Yeah. My orthodontist had two arcade machines, had Packland and Arkanoid. Hold on, I'm getting a knock at my door, which is weird. If I don't come back, I'm dead.
Okay. Whoa, Jenny's? What? Oh my God, that's the best of all possible futures. I was like Doctor Strange looking at all possible outcomes. I did not predict that it would be this positive.
I might leave this in the episode too. I just got a massive crate of Jenny's ice cream.
Is that from your family that's coming into town?
No. God, no. I mean, but
it's massive Jenny's crate.
It's great that Jenny's did. # not spawn. I'm on their mailing list, and when they do special seasonal flavors, they send me sampler packs of their special seasonal flavors.
Can I tell you honestly, moving to Denver, the number one thing I miss is Jenny's ice cream. I'm not even joking.
I mean, they'll dry ice, freeze, and flat pack and ship it to you, but it ain't cheap.
It ain't cheap.
It ain't cheap. And it ain't good for your wisdom teeth, he said, bringing it back into the episode. Because once again, # not spawn.
Not spawn. I found this very interesting. I've always wondered, it seems weird that you're a full-grown, nearly a full-grown adult, and then all of a sudden you have to deal with like weird baby teeth issues,
It's body horror for sure. Like,
it is.
I remember thinking about it and being like, I mean, listen, spoiler alert for any of our younger listeners, there's even more body horror to come. But,
yeah.
Man, oh man.
Well, the body horror continues into your 40s, let me tell you that right now.
You think we've seen it? We haven't seen it yet. We haven't begun to see it, buddy. But yeah, I remember when they started coming in, I was like, why is my body doing this to me? They serve no purpose. It feels to me like the appendix bursting. It's like, then just fucking get rid of the appendix.
Yeah.
Although we've now
Yeah.
found that the appendix actually does do some things.
Yeah, well, it's similar, right? The more we learn about the molars as well is they're like, well, we can leave them in.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, that's the prevailing wisdom when we were young was, and really up until I guess just a couple of years back when they released this study, was we had out evolved the appendix. We didn't need it. It was worthless. And so if your appendix burst, they just pulled it out and it didn't do anything. And now they find that it has something to do with like the gut fauna and things like that, and processing bacteria in your body. So should we have these molars? I have to think.
Well, it
now I'm
sounds
going to
like
think a lot when I
more and
chew.
more,
Do you
right?
think that you have any problems chewing? Now I think maybe I have problems chewing, or am I just thinking that now?
I don't think I have any problems chewing, but
We should all keep track of whether we have problems chewing.
yeah, let's all have a chew log.
Imagine what I want everybody to do.
which is not a piece of wood that you chew on.
No. What I want everybody to do is keep a pocket notebook, a field like a pocket notebook over the next week, and let's try to imagine if you had an additional back tooth behind your other teeth, and try to imagine as you're eating different things and different textures this week, would this back tooth be benefiting me?
Record it in your mastication journal.
Record it in your mastication journal. Share it with us on the Discord. This is citizen science. We're going to figure out whether we actually need these back teeth. Because now I'm like, were the greatest teeth in my life stolen from me?
Stolen from me.
Were they taken from me
Maybe
before their
Can we
time?
get those put back in? Can we get some sort of...
What if I was meant to be chewing like so much more jerky than I'm chewing or something? What if I was meant to be eating like some really chewy foods that I don't find pleasant?
What if you're always chewing at an 8th grade level?
Whoa. My greatest nightmare. My greatest nightmare. Yeah, let us know on the Discord, or you can let us know on Twitter, but we're bad at Twitter because Twitter's a bad place. But if you wanted to tweet at me, I'm at A Carboni.
I'm at Jeff Canada.
And hey, just a reminder, if you are a patron this week, you get an extra bonus video. You should have already gotten it from me. Last week, you got one from Jeff. If you've been missing, we've been doing them sort of infrequently as tests, but it's just an extra bonus science story that we find interesting that we sit down and share with you once a week.
So much good stuff that we get. We don't have time to cover all of it. So it's extra video, extra content, all in thanks and appreciation for you supporting us and supporting the show at patreon.com/wehaveconcerns.
Okay, I got to go. I got to eat all this ice cream before my family gets into town.
Jealous.